All right, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to clean up your liver for good. But first things first, none of what I'm going to say has been evaluated by a government institution. I am not a licensed medical professional, so this is all just information. This is not medical advice. And this is what I believe to be true right now, but research is ongoing and new information will always be brought to light. So with that out of the way, let's first talk about what a liver cleanse is. So when you Google this is the top result that comes up. It's from Johns Hopkins, and it's just misinformation warning. So it's warning people against doing a liver cleanse or a liver detox. So what do they actually recommend? Well, it was the useless kind of institutional information that said to avoid illegal drugs and avoid having risky, unprotected sex with strangers and drinking too heavily. So if that's not a problem for you, then they really don't have much information on how to solve liver problems. Now, their warning is something that might be worth listening to. This is a case report about a liver injury from a liver detoxification tea. So that tea had burdock root, stinging nettle leaf, cleaver's herb, dandelion root, lemon peel, and lemon myrtle leaf. So something obviously didn't agree with this lady's body. She's probably already suffering from liver issues and started taking all these different plant compounds, which may have hurt her liver even more. So this is just a case study. So it's just something to be careful about and listen to your body. If something doesn't feel good, that's not some detox reaction. It's probably your body saying, don't do this anymore. So this is just my advice, but talk to a professional who can see you in person. And let's jump into, so what is a liver cleanse? So alternative health is slightly better than the mainstream, but it does miss quite a lot, more so than it hits the mark. So I see a lot of advocates pushing for a plant-based diet, eating more cruciferous veggies, eating more nuts, eating more fiber, drinking magnesium sulfate, like Epsom salts and stuff like that. So these things can be hard on your body, especially if you're already suffering from liver issues, which means you're probably already suffering from gut issues. And you're just going to throw down all these nuts and fiber and all those things. It's going to cause all sorts of problems. Now, Dr. Berg did have some solid points on fixing fatty liver by eating grass-fed beef, eating more salmon and wild fish, beef liver, apple cider vinegar. Those are great tactics, in my opinion. But he doesn't talk about the root cause. And there's a lot of weird stuff in there, like having kale that's uncooked or avoiding fruit due to fructose and using pharmaceutical supplements. So some weird stuff in there for sure. So let's talk about what the goal of a liver cleanse is. So there's lots of different liver problems, but most people today are trying to fix non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And so that's what the rest of this presentation is going to be focused on. So what are the symptoms of fatty liver? The first symptoms are fatigue. Sometimes people might feel a right upper quadrant discomfort. They may be suffering from an enlarged liver, acanthosis nigricans, which is a dark velvety skin in any kind of like body folds or creases. Lipomatosis, which is fatty tumors on the body. Now, most people, that's severe fatty liver disease. So most people aren't going to be suffering from things like that. But we need to keep in mind that fatty liver is linked to something called chronic inflammation. And fatty liver is also linked to chronic inflammation and linked to abdominal obesity. So that's probably the first symptom, is if you've got a big belly here from your organs are being coated in a protective fat, you've probably already are suffering from a fatty liver. So this is just a paper here. Chronic inflammation is linked to all these different diseases, including non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So chronic inflammation is the main thing we need to focus on. And here's a quote: chronic inflammatory diseases are the most significant cause of death in the world. So some early symptoms of chronic inflammation includes arthritis and joint diseases, allergies such as asthma and hay fever, body pain, chronic fatigue, insomnia, depression, anxiety, mood disorders, gut issues like constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, and frequent infections. So if any of those symptoms sound familiar to you, your liver might need a little bit of love. And fatty liver is also linked to low testosterone. So if we can fix fatty liver at its core, we might be able to raise testosterone if you're a man and improve your natural hormone profile. Fatty liver is linked to GERD. So we want to pay attention to anything that you eat that causes throat clearing, like like that. Like if you're finding you're making that noise a lot after eating something, or persistent burping, or acid reflux, or symptoms of asthma, you want to pay attention to any of those kinds of symptoms, and maybe those foods aren't agreeing with your digestion at the moment. Fatty liver is also linked to belly fat, as we just covered. So if you've got the belly fat, we want to work on your fatty liver. Unfortunately, I have some bad news. Fatty liver is also linked to fatty pancreas. So if you know that you have liver issues, you probably also have pancreatic issues. Fatty liver is also linked to having a fatty heart. So this is how fatty liver might be linked to heart disease, because the same thing that's causing fatty liver is causing a fatty heart. And fatty liver is linked to heart disease. Systemic inflammation is causing these issues where non-alcoholic fatty liver disease increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. Fatty liver is also linked to eye health. So if you've noticed that you've got dry eyes, or you've got issues with cataracts or glaucoma or diabetic retinopathy, if you've got these eye issues, you probably got a liver issue as well. So you can pay attention to how your eye health is doing. And we have to figure out what's causing this problem, because we owe it to our children. Up to 1 in 5 children in America already have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So this is what's causing the obesity epidemic. This is what's causing the allergy problems. All these different symptoms that our society is suffering from. It's all linked to chronic inflammation, and that does cause a fatty liver. And so trying to focus on improving your liver, that's a good thing. And we can keep talking about how to do that as we work through the video. So what is the cause of fatty liver? Well, I would say that we should not ignore any digestive symptoms. We need to solve them. So toxins leaking from the gut are damaging fat cells and driving weight gain. So the role of leaky gut in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So the liver directly accepts blood from the gut and is therefore exposed to intestinal bacteria. So if we can improve our gut health, it follows that we could improve our fatty liver. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is responsible for systemic inflammation, and its consequences include obesity and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So there's something going on with bacteria in our gut and our immune system, and that's allowing this bacteria to get to our liver, and that's causing the fat storage there. We've got a study here about the Helicobacter pylori infection is linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That H. pylori infection is linked to GERD, asthma, and inflammatory bowel disease. So this bacteria in the gut that sits up here is causing issues with digestion. And they're finding that the H. pylori species, they're finding it in the liver. So the results presented in the study show that the Helicobacter species are present in the liver of patients with primary hepatic carcinoma. So people with liver cancer, they're finding the bacteria in the liver now. So it's not just in the gut. H. pylori invasion into intestinal mucosa might increase gut permeability, resulting in more passage of endotoxins via the portal vein to the liver. So H. pylori itself is found in the liver and may cause inflammation and the ballooning of hepatocytes. This H. pylori related hepatic injury may also play a role in the development of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So basically, the H. pylori infection in our gut is getting into the liver, and that might actually be causing the problem in the liver. They're also finding out that this H. pylori could be a potential trigger of autoimmune inflammation of the pancreas. So they're finding it could be causing inflammation in the pancreas. And as we talked about, fatty liver is linked to the fatty pancreas. So H. pylori infection has been suggested to be playing a role in the pancreatitis problems and diabetes and the metabolic syndrome, which all these things are linked here. So here's a quote: "Since Helicobacter species plural has been isolated from liver samples of a variety of mammals, it has been suggested that the bacteria may be involved in the pathogenesis of chronic liver disease and liver carcinoma. Helicobacter species plural, DNA was successfully detected in liver samples of individuals with primary liver carcinoma. So they're finding that this gut bacteria is in the liver and is causing inflammation there. So this gut bacteria might explain our vices, because there's a study here showing that the more that you smoke cigarettes and the more that you drink, the less your risk of infection is. So smoking and drinking seems to kill this bacteria, which explains our vices. However, it's not like smoke and alcohol is easy on our body as well. That's also a burden on the body. So I'm not recommending that you start day drinking or start smoking. I don't smoke myself. I think it's better to attack the root cause of why our immune system is being overrun. But it does explain our vices and why some people feel the compulsion to drink or to smoke. Here's another paper here, gingivalis, the cause of the gingivitis disease, the inflammation in your mouth. That bacteria was found in the liver. So there does seem to be some kind of connection here with our digestive system and the fatty liver. Now, how could that be? Bacteria causes our blood to aggregate. As that blood starts to aggregate, it clots around the bacteria, and that makes the blood sludgy. And that sludgy, thick blood could lead to organ dysfunction over time. Inflammation leads to iron restriction. So as our body is being overrun by bacteria and inflammation, it leads to something called anemia of inflammation. So you stop producing as much blood and you start clotting the blood to get to this bacteria. And so when you don't have enough blood, you start to feel tired and you start to, like, all you want to do is lay down and sleep. It's because your body is fighting an infection in the blood that's getting to your liver. So aspirin could cut liver fat. One potential reason that it might do this is aspirin coats your red blood cells and it allows that blood to shear a little bit better. And that allows the blood to get to your organs and clear away waste. And that is one way that it might help. However, aspirin does have side effects. As that aspirin coating with the red blood cells allows the blood to shear a bit more, sometimes the blood can actually burst. And that can cause bruising. It can cause internal bleeding. It can cause anemia itself as you start to run through more blood as the blood starts to break too much. So aspirin is not a solution. However, if you're very old, you may want to talk to your medical professional about things like aspirin, because it might help that blood to flow better, improving your organ health. Daily aspirin is associated with a reduced risk of hepatocellular carcinoma in patients with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So daily aspirin therapy is significantly associated with a reduced risk. So basically, that's what I believe anyways, that it's going to help coat these red blood cells to help the blood begin flowing again. So the aspirin thins that sludgy blood, allowing waste to clear away and allowing the blood to bring in nutrient delivery. Here's a funny news article talking about how aspirin could be causing pensions hundreds of billions of dollars as lifespans increase, because aspirin may help people live longer, especially older people who aren't going to be able to solve the root cause. Their organs are already quite old and damaged, but it may allow them to stay alive by improving that blood flow. Again, I'm not recommending aspirin. I would suggest solving this problem at its root cause. And aspirin does have some side effects. Some people will get nosebleeds or stomach bleeding and things like that. But it's just information for you to know of. Now, a prior video I did on low testosterone, I argued that sludgy blood was causing the varicocele, which are these inflamed veins, and it was shrinking the testicles, causing low testosterone. So when you fix the varicocele, it would improve testosterone levels. So if we can improve the blood flow to the organs, that's going to help the organs rebuild. So improving blood flow to your liver is going to help. So the root cause of fatty liver, let's walk this through. A cleanse or detox is only going to give you temporary results. So Food restriction will lessen the burden on the immune system as long as you are avoiding that food. And some raw foods like garlic or raw greens or something like that, that might be antibacterial and kill some of that infection there. So that is how those work. You're just temporarily not eating a food that's triggering your gut. Number 2, fatty liver disease is linked to chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is linked to having belly fat. It's also linked to developing cancer or diabetes or heart disease. So we do want to fix the root cause. It's worth the time, effort, and money to solve this problem for good. Chronic inflammation is what happens with a declining immune system. Bacterial overload and toxic exposure on the body will cause a burden on the immune system, which can't currently keep up. That bacteria makes its way into the blood and over to the organs, including the liver. Our body adds protective fat to the organs, fatty heart, fatty pancreas, fatty liver, to deal with the bacteria and the toxin damage. And this fat is called visceral fat, and it pushes the belly out. Fatty liver also causes a lack of enough healthy blood to slow down bacterial overgrowth. This makes blood sticky and sludgy as it clots, and that's going to cause fatigue. It's going to make you feel really tired. So that sludgy blood and bacterial overload causes fatigue and organ damage over time. So what are some beginner steps for healing a fatty liver? So the first step is we want to stop eating foods that you can't currently digest. So you want to avoid any foods that cause symptoms such as throat clearing, where you go like that kind of thing. You want to avoid any kind of foods that cause acid reflux, shortness of breath, or issues with digestion in general. So 2 big foods that cause digestive distress after working with many, many people is pasteurized dairy and iron fortified white flour. You want to keep a food log. Pay attention to what foods make you feel amazing after you eat them, and pay attention to what foods make you feel kind of burpy or feeling like you want to lay down, and avoid those foods. Pay attention to your log and do little experiments like having the apple cider vinegar shots before a meal to improve digestion. So keep a log and pay attention to what makes you feel good, what makes you feel bad, and just stop eating food that makes you feel bad. That's a good first step. You want to try eating more raw honey. Raw honey is antibacterial. It kills that H. pylori infection, and it's been shown to be a prebiotic in the gut microbiome, so it helps to restore good gut health. And consuming honey 2 to 6 times a week was inversely associated with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So I know that some people will push back and say like honey's just, it's sugar, it's bad for you, but honey is not just sugar. Honey has activated B enzymes. So the bee created these enzymes. These enzymes help with digestion. And the honey also includes vitamin D complexes. The sun has kissed that pollen that the bees have collected and created their honey with. And so honey is an antibacterial food that tastes great, that gives you the energy that you want in a non-inflammatory way. So something like table sugar might be inflammatory. Something like honey is going to kill that gut infection and help you feel better. A low dose of alcohol prevents fatty liver. Is it possible? So we've heard of liver damage from binge drinkers, so people who drink their liver to dust. That is a problem, but it's possible that a low dose of alcohol is killing the H. pylori infection, which would allow your liver to heal. So it says here that the newly onset of fatty liver was significantly repressed in apparently healthy men who consume light to moderate alcohol. It could be that alcohol is hard on our body, but it's also hard on bacteria. So it could be a double-edged sword. That is something you may want to think about. If you have an issue with alcohol, it's best just to avoid it. But if you don't have a problem with just having 1 beer or a couple beers a week, then this is just information for you to consider. Now, a fatty liver is also linked to having low levels of vitamin A. Here's another study. Studies have shown that patients with non-alcoholic fatty liver have a vitamin A deficiency. And here's a graph here showing the vitamin A levels in a liver. So if you have a normal liver, it's much higher. If you have a fatty liver, the vitamin A levels are very, very low. And so we need to improve our vitamin A intake. In this study here, a high prevalence of vitamin A and D deficiency in patients evaluated for liver transplantation. So the people who have a failing liver, they found out they have low levels of vitamin A and D. And in this study, it found that vitamin D deficiency was significantly associated with dying after getting a liver transplant. So there's something going on there. They got the new liver and they still ended up dying, but they had a vitamin D deficiency. So we want to focus on vitamin A and vitamin D, which we'll cover in just a minute. Beef tallow protects rats against getting liver disease when they're exposed to alcohol. And when they fed them seed oil from corn, it made their liver worse. So rats fed tallow and ethanol developed none of the features of alcoholic liver disease. But those fed lard and ethanol got a minimal to moderate. So lard is better than corn and seed oil. And rats fed corn oil and ethanol developed the most severe pathology. So we want to have grass-fed beef tallow. That's a great option for cooking with and baking with. Beef tallow improves gut health and fights inflammation in rats. So ruminant fat intake led to higher concentrations of stearic acid and conjugated linoleic acid in all tissue. This particular diet was associated with a hepatoprotective effect. That means it was protective to the liver. In this study here, eating more animal organ meat was associated with a lower prevalence of non-alcoholic hepatitis. So in this study here, eating more organ meats was better for the liver. So you want to eat organ meat to heal your organs. So in traditional outdoor societies, eating liver was often the solution for liver issues. In today's indoor society, our body has lowered our iron in our blood to fight against inflammation. So not everybody does well when eating liver. So favorites of mine are eating grass-fed beef tallow, which has the vitamin A and vitamin D in it. And you could also eat lighter colored organ meats, such as sweetbreads. That's often the pancreas of the body. So you can get veal pancreas is a great option. Tastes great. If you like fish, canned cod liver is also fairly lighter in color. It doesn't have as much iron and copper. Has high levels of vitamin A and D as well. So you can take the cod liver, you can drain it, and then you can cook that up with some eggs, and that tastes pretty good. If you like fish, it does have a fish taste. So when you buy grass-fed beef tallow to get the vitamin A, you want to get the yellowest, most orange version of it. So the more yellow and orange the fat looks, the higher levels of vitamin A it will have. So the healthier the animal, the better the color is going to be. So when the animal gets healthy and you eat the healthy animal, those healthy nutrients are going to go to you. So the ruminants that are allowed outside on pasture, they're going to get access to fresh green grass. And that grass has carotenoids, and those are pre-vitamin A. The cattle will eat the pre-vitamin A, it will turn it into active vitamin A, and that will get stored in its fat and the meat. And so when you eat healthy animals, that's going to help your body get healthier. So how to clean out your liver for good. What's the long-term game here? Vitamin D deficiency is linked to chronic inflammation. Vitamin D levels are linked to fatty liver disease. Here's another one. Vitamin D has favorable effects on glycemic control and insulin sensitivity in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease and sunshine exposure. Animal modeling studies suggest that exposure to ultraviolet radiation can prevent the development of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The sunshine vitamin could have the risk of liver cancer. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to having a fatty liver and insulin resistance. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to having an H. pylori infection, which we talked about is linked to the gut problems that gets down into your liver. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to not generating enough healthy blood. So if you can fix your vitamin D levels, that's going to help you get over the fatigue and start to feel good again. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to a dairy intolerance. So that's your gut indigestion. It can't handle it. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to celiac disease and other reactions to other foods. And we're finding out now that chronic diseases, they originally start off seasonally. So that means the symptoms first start in the winter, then they go away in the spring and the summer, and then they come back in the winter until the chronic disease has develop so much that you're just suffering all the time. That gives a sign that the spring and the summer is improving these chronic diseases through exposure to sunshine. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to food allergies. Vitamin D is linked to having high cholesterol. So they found that diabetics deficient in vitamin D can't process cholesterol normally, so it builds up in their blood vessels. So we know that the fatty liver is linked to heart disease, and the heart disease is linked to having a problem with vitamin D and cholesterol. We also know that vitamin D deficiency is linked to arthritis and the other symptoms of inflammation. Vitamin D helps with blood flow and helps with blood sugar control. That's going to help you with your insulin resistance and improving your whole body. Vitamin D arms your immune system, which modulates the gut. Vitamin D influences the composition of the gastrointestinal microbiome. Vitamin D may help fight against cancer by affecting gut bacteria. So we know that the immune system is modulating the gut. So we need to improve the immune system by giving it what it needs. Sunshine exposure reduces fat gain and reduces sign of heart disease, which we know is linked to the fatty heart and the fatty liver. And a ketogenic diet may help fight against fatty liver disease. Ketogenic diet has emerged as an effective nutritional strategy for the management of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now, why might that happen? Well, we're finding out that ketogenic diets might be raising vitamin D levels. Now, it would do that by restricting foods that are disturbing your gut and causing this gut bacteria to explode. So the issue isn't really the food itself, but our immune system that is overburdened by this gut problem. So we need to improve our gut health to improve food tolerance. So if you don't want to be stuck on a ketogenic diet, we need to look at solving the root problem of the immune system declining. Fiber intake could lower vitamin D, which might explain why some people have issues digesting things like grains. Caffeine intake could also lower vitamin D. So if this is something you want to really focus on, you may want to pull back a little bit on the coffee, especially during the winter months. And so we've talked a lot about vitamin D and how it might help the fatty liver. So I can just take a supplement, right? Vitamin D supplements, could it help with fatty liver disease? In this paper, evidence so far available supports the hypothesis of potential benefits of vitamin D supplementation in selected populations of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease patients. Vitamin D supplements might help a little, but it's missing the full picture. So a total of 6 studies, only in 2 of the studies, they found that the liver health improved after the vitamin D supplements. So what's going on here? Now, my question to you is, do you think a synthetic, pharmaceutically produced, finalized hormone is the same as the totality of the sun? Do you think we can condense into this little synthetic pill everything that the sun is giving to us? So this is a paper here talking about how once we invented the vitamin D supplement, we found the rise of the allergy pandemic. So is there something going on with the vitamin D supplements? Excess intake of vitamin D causes hypercalcemic toxicity. However, experiments with different animal species have shown that long-term supply of oral vitamin D in apparently non-toxic amounts can cause atherosclerosis in large arteries. So even small amounts of this synthetic hormone might be causing heart disease. Long-term supplementation increases the risk of hypercalcemia and other adverse events in a small proportion of individuals, indicating that this low dose is not completely safe. So even just at 3,000 to 4,000 IU, certain people might not be doing well with that supplement. In the 1940s and 50s, high doses of vitamin D were given to infants, resulting in them developing hypercalcemia. There were reports from Great Britain that they had altered facial structure, heart problems, mental retardation, and hypercalcemia. So that's actually when they banned adding vitamin D supplements to the milk and the margarine in Great Britain. Now we do add that in Canada and America and a few other countries, I think Sweden and Finland. So is it possible that some people are having a reaction to the supplements? Baby deaths mystery from the 1930s solved by researchers because they found out some people had a gene that was linking to a reaction to the vitamin D supplements. Vitamin D toxicity is caused by supplements, not by diet or sun exposure. So we're already seeing a difference in how some people treat the supplements. And here, there's new research showing that researchers are still trying to figure out the optimal form of the vitamin D supplement. So they're talking about creating a new supplement that bypasses the liver, because when you take the vitamin D3 supplement, it goes to the liver to get processed. So the new supplement will be bypassing the liver. So the liver produces 25-hydroxy vitamin D. People with liver disease are not doing so well with these vitamin D supplements. And so there's these new ones that are trying to bypass the liver. And if you look at the anecdotes on Amazon, you'll see that a lot of them are saying, hey, this supplement doesn't make me nauseous anymore. It doesn't make me feel like throwing up. Now, I'm not recommending this supplement. In fact, I would say that trying to solve a vitamin D deficiency by using a synthetic pharmaceutically produced compound instead of just spending more time outside is just kind of crazy to me, because the sunshine offers a lot more than just vitamin D. There's ultraviolet A, ultraviolet B, there's infrared radiation. That's the new hot thing is red light therapy. All of that comes from the sun. And there could be other benefits of being outdoors, such as the negative ions in the fresh air. There's more oxygen outside and less CO2. And they're finding out now that the sun has other effects on our body beyond vitamin D. Here's a quote on how sunlight energizes our infection-fighting thymic cells. Quote, "The skin has a large share of thymic cells in humans, approximately twice the number circulating in the blood. We found that sunlight makes hydrogen peroxide in thymic cells, which makes the cells move." So there's a lot more things going on with the sunshine than just vitamin D. Somehow it's charging our immune cells to work better. So the sun is creating all of these other effects beyond just vitamin D, and you can't expect to replace the sun with a pharmaceutical. Here, in a study using ultraviolet B exposure, it was better at raising vitamin D levels than the supplements. In this study, they took rats, they made them vitamin D deficient, they split them into two groups. One group got the vitamin D supplement, one group of rats was brought outside to a field and was exposed to sunshine in the middle of the day. And the sunshine group of rats had their bone structure restored and their vitamin D levels were raised a lot better. So the rats that were brought outside got a lot healthier and had better results than those taking the supplements. Now, isn't ultraviolet exposure bad? Well, here's a quote from a paper. "Some scientists worry that the emphasis on preventing skin cancer tends to obscure the much larger mortality burden posed by more life-threatening cancers such as lung, colon, and breast cancers." So by hyperfixating on the skin cancer, we may be allowing these other cancers, which are lowered by sunshine and vitamin D, we're letting these other cancers explode because we're telling everyone to stay indoors. Inadequate sunlight exposure is causing inflammatory bowel disease. Beneficial effects of sun exposure on cancer mortality. Now, this is an interesting one because the paper says sunlight has a paradoxical relationship with melanoma. That's the most dangerous type of skin cancer. In that sunburning causes melanoma, but long-term regular sun exposure inhibits melanoma. So it could be that as long as we don't burn out in the sun, then we'll be getting the benefits of the sun without any of the downsides. There's a paper here saying that if we hang out in the shade, we can get the bounced ultraviolet rays that cause vitamin D, and you don't have to roast out in the direct sun. So shade is an important ultraviolet minimization strategy. It may also play an important role in providing the human body with adequate levels of UVB radiation for pre-vitamin D production. So it could be that it's better to hang outside for 8 hours in the shade, getting that vitamin D generating radiation, than it is to go outside for half an hour in the midday sun and burning. So the goal is just to get outside more. Let the bounced UV hit your eyes and your skin a little bit at a low intensity rather than roasting out in the sunshine. The other thing to think about is that solar radiation from the ultraviolet rays from the sun it breaks down vitamin A. Now, as we know, people with fatty liver disease already have low levels of vitamin A. So we're going to need to raise vitamin A and vitamin D at the same times. We're going to want to improve our nutrition. We want to eat healthy animals that have had access to fresh green grass. And then we want to spend more time outdoors in the shade to raise those vitamin D levels at the same time. Now, you can also eat a photoprotective diet. So there's been lots of studies on how certain nutrients help our skin to recover from the sun. These nutrients are vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin K2. So some good options are fresh, raw juice, animal organs, grass-fed meat from animals raised on fresh green grass that they get access to plenty of pre-vitamin A, which they'll turn into vitamin A for us. Vitamin A and E absorb ultraviolet light in the region of solar spectrum that is responsible for most of the deleterious biological effects of the sun. So great sources of vitamin A and E, that's grass-fed beef tallow. There's lots of vitamin A in there and lots of vitamin E. Now, to also help your liver, we want to avoid toxic burdens on the body. So water fluoridation, they're adding fluoride to the tap water. That is linked to a vitamin D deficiency and worse blood sugar levels. Water fluoridation damages every organ. Excessive fluoride intake may induce multiple organ and tissue damage to our body. And in rats, when they expose them to fluoridated water, they get a vitamin A deficiency. And as we know, that's linked to getting a fatty liver. Some research is starting to wonder, is water fluoridation a hidden cause of obesity? Because fluoridation could be hurting our immune system, and that's causing the belly fat to grow to protect the liver. And in this 2019 study, fluoride may diminish kidney and liver function in adolescents. So this is a study out of America. Findings show that exposure to fluoride may contribute to complex changes in kidney and liver function among youth in the United States, where 74% of public water systems add fluoride for dental health benefits. Could it be that the tap water fluoridation is the main cause of fatty liver that's going on? Is this why up to 1 in 5 children are already struggling with issues? Is because they're drinking the water and they're drinking the pop and they're having soup and juice made out of concentrate, brushing their teeth with fluoridated toothpaste. If you're worried about teeth, there are other options to remineralize that seem less toxic, such as hydroxyapatite. So there are other options out there, and you may want to try and avoid fluoridated water with things like spring water or reverse osmosis or distilled water. There's a lot of options, but we can cover that in another video. Pesticides are linked to a vitamin D deficiency. I like to tell my clients that if you're making 6 figures, you should be buying organic foods. It's just a no-brainer way. The food tastes better as well. And so that might also help with the fatty liver. Here's a different study. In conclusion, exposure to these certain types of pesticides may impact fatty liver. Now, this is not medical advice. So I'm just going to put this up on the screen. I don't want to get banned too early in my YouTube career. But it's possible that some of these medications might not be good for the liver. Here's another one. Yeah, so you may want to have a deeper look into this. Being exposed to metals is not good for the immune system. And that's going to cause all sorts of gut disruptions and immune problems. And that's not good for your organs, including your liver. Statin therapy induces gut leakage. Statin therapy adversely affects neuromuscular junction and intestinal barrier, which potentially induces systemic inflammation. So we know that the gut problems are linked to the fatty liver. Is it possible that some of these medications have some side effects? This is not medical advice, and just information for you to arm yourself with. Statins may be linked to type 2 diabetes, which, as we covered, is linked to fatty liver. Acetaminophen, so just plain old Tylenol, could aggravate fat accumulation in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So if you're taking these so-called harmless medications, could be causing fatty liver disease. Ibuprofen causes low testosterone, which has been linked to fatty liver. So that could be playing a role there as well. There's also the fact that people struggling with fatty liver disease might also be struggling with hair loss. And they're finding out now that finasteride and these drugs might be affecting liver. It says recent emerging literature supports a role for DHT in the physiological function of the liver, pancreatic beta cell function, and so on. So some of these medications may be causing the fatty liver disease as well. We know that lead and other metals can place a burden on our immune system, so we want to avoid toxic exposure there as much as possible. And in this one, I want to talk about how avoiding iron fortified white flour. White flour is one of the worst foods, and it's because by government law, it has powderized iron added to it. And that iron is supposed to be solving anemia, but it might be feeding pathogenic bacteria in the gut. When our body lowers iron, it's to stop the inflammation response because there's bacteria and pathogens that are feeding off of the iron. So our body lowers iron on purpose to deal with the infection. And then people are eating this white flour that has this powderized iron and is causing all this burping and indigestion and inflammation. So just cutting out anything with white flour that's been fortified with iron will go pretty far. So in this study, they took people from Somalia and they were iron deficient. So they gave them iron and it reactivated all these old infections they had, such as malaria and tuberculosis. So their immune system was pushing these things down. They were given iron to boost their blood flow, and it just set off all sorts of issues. Here's one last paper. Since iron is an essential growth factor for H. pylori, it competes with the host, that's us, for iron absorption. H. pylori possesses proteins and so on. So these bacteria that are in our gut, they're just waiting there for something to feed on. And you eat this iron fortified white flour, it's going to cause all sorts of acid reflux and throat clearing as the bacteria explodes in numbers. So how to clean out your liver for good? How do we get started? That was a lot of information. And so some beginner steps is we want to stop eating foods or just minimize foods that you can't currently digest. So a lot of these tactics, such as intermittent fasting or plant-based or animal-based ketogenic diets, they're used to stop eating the foods that are triggering gut problems, that are allowing these bacteria to explode, that are going to cause issues for your liver. So not eating food, such as with fasting, that's going to give your body time to heal, but it's still a crutch. You haven't dealt with the issue of why your immune system was run over to begin with. So you can use these as tactics to get fast results, but we want to fix the root cause, which is the immune system. So the two biggest things that I found and that I recommend to my clients that I work with is just avoiding pasteurized dairy and iron fortified white flour. If you avoid those two things, this isn't advice, but just information. If you try those two things, I think you'll find it pretty powerful as for cutting down a lot of gut disruption. If you wanted to experiment with more extreme restriction, you could also look at avoiding seeds and grains, starches and nightshades and things like legumes. Anything that's hard to digest, you may want to cut out. We also want to eat foods that improve our immune system, our gut health, and our liver health. So we want to eat healthy animals to get healthy. So eat animals that are raised outdoors. Their vitamin D levels will get higher. If they have access to fresh pasture, their vitamin A levels will get higher. And then when you eat them, that's going to improve your vitamin A and D levels as well. That makes grass-fed pasture-raised beef the best. And wild fish is also a great option because it's very high in vitamin D. We also want to eat nutritious food of a varied diet. So if you can get access to organ meats, sweetbreads such as pancreas, those ones taste really good and is high in vitamin A and all these other compounds that are going to help nourish your internal organs. Eating tripe, which is like a stomach, is very good for improving digestion as well. If you like fish, you may want to look into canned cod liver, which has high levels of vitamin A and D, which will help your own liver. Raw honey is antibacterial and could help your liver as well. Raw fruit juice and fresh fruit has vitamin C and has antibacterial effects. Pay attention to how you do with fruit. Apparently some people still don't do well with fruit, but of all the carbs is one of the better ones, with raw honey being the absolute best. If you refuse to give up pasteurized milk, you may want to investigate raw milk from tested animals that are healthy, that are raised outdoor on the pasture. Raw milk comes with all the living good bacteria, which is going to help settle your stomach, and activated enzymes, which is going to help to improve digestion. So it can help fight against that bad gut health. And berries and garlic and onions and all sorts of different things that can help kill that bad gut bacteria. Getting sludgy blood moving may also help your organs to regenerate. It's going to help to bring nutrition and clear away waste. So doing some walking or doing some cardio if you're younger and healthier might help you get faster results. And sitting in the shade, just going outside in the fresh air, taking off your shoes and socks, putting your feet directly in the sand or in the grass of your backyard, that's going to ground you to the earth. But that's for a video for another day about how the earth can help your blood flow improve. So just getting outdoors, getting in the fresh air, getting back to nature will also help with blood flow. Long term, we want to rebuild the immune system. So we want to avoid anything that's a burden on the immune system. These are things that don't even give us any benefit in life, that are just making our body work harder than it needs to. So things like fluoride, chlorine, EMFs, lead, aluminum, microplastics, injections, pesticides, too much smoke, too much alcohol. We want to give our body as much breathing room as possible to allow it to heal. The body wants to heal. We just need to take a little load off its shoulders so that it can get to work. So you may want to look into drinking spring water or distilled water or reverse osmosis. I personally drink spring water. We want to give our body what it needs to rebuild its immune system, to rebuild the liver. So that includes proper nutrition, vitamin A, D, E, K2, B12. All of those things are in grass-fed beef tallow. Those are in animal organs and animal meat. So eating more grass-fed beef, and maybe try some sweetbreads or tripe if you're up for it. Spending more time outside in the shade is going to get you higher levels of vitamin D. We want to spend enough time sleeping to help our body recover and feel good. And anything that helps to restore your organ health or your health in general might help you with your fatty liver. So I would try and keep up to date with any kind of tactics or new information or research that's talking about boosting testosterone naturally, or improving insulin resistance, or improving cardiovascular health or gut health, because ultimately all of these organs are linked. They're all being overrun. And so if you see something that's like, hey, this compound or sunshine helps with this heart health or whatever, it may end up helping you with fatty liver. So to remember, the fight is against chronic inflammation. That is going to, if we can fight against that, that's going to solve all of our problems and improve our organ health, including the liver. You can email me anytime at team@outliveforever.com with any questions that you have. So anything that fights against inflammation is going to help you protect and rebuild your liver. Now, there's only so much I can cover in a YouTube video, so I'd like to invite you to join the Outlive newsletter. It's free. There's a link in the description, and it can't get censored. It can't get shadow banned, and we can talk about more controversial topics there. So I hope to see you over on the newsletter, and thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.